back to the Doctor Who Marathon. I'm your host McEdam, and today we're going to be talking about The Curse of Davros, written by Jonathan Morris. This would be the first story in which Flip is a companion. This isn't actually her first story. The character originally appeared in a Sixth Doctor and Evelyn adventure known as The Crime of Thomas Brewster, which is a very complicated story in itself. Not only did that story introduce Flip, but it also had Detective Mendez meet the Sixth Doctor before he chronologically met her in The Condemned, from the Sixth Doctor's point of view. So that was chronologically his first meeting with her. And it has Evelyn, of course, and it also had Thomas Brewster, a character who jumps back and forth between a Fifth Doctor and a Sixth Doctor companion, a character who I've not had any... I've not listened to any of those stories, so I do apologise. Here, somebody must have liked her because she became a companion after this adventure, The Curse of Davros. So that's really interesting. Now, Flip is designed in the same mindset as a few other companions after 2005. Let me explain. In 2005, Doctor Who returned, and with it they had a new companion, Rose Tyler, and she became incredibly popular, to the point where a few companions afterwards, and a lot of companions in the audio dramas and the books and the comics, were styled around her, the street girl, I don't want to use the term because I know a lot of people don't like it, but the word chav comes to mind. I don't know, I personally don't find the word chav a bad thing, but I know a lot of people don't like, so she talks like, oh my god, I can't believe you just did that. I'm so well jealous. She kind of talks like that, and she's like, I'm so jealous that you met blah blah. I wish I could take a photo on my phone, kind of like, that kind of, what people think British people are like, English people are like, kind of like that. This Big Finish have made two characters in this style of Rose Tyler or Donna Noble, this kind of, I don't want to say chav, but chav. One is Lucy Miller with the 8th Doctor, and Flip for the 6th Doctor. So, yeah, that's kind of interesting. Another thing important to note is that I was really hesitant on getting this story, mainly because it has the Daleks and specifically Davros in it. For those of you who are unaware with Classic Who, when it comes to the television, each Doctor of the 80s era got one Dalek story to each other. This would make a trilogy, which is officially known as the Dalek Civil War. But personally, out of confusion and not to mix it up with the Dalek Civil War duology, I decided to call these stories the R of the Daleks because they start with R of the Daleks, you know what I mean? And I like this idea of the 80s Doctors only having like one Dalek between each other. So I wasn't really planning on getting this. Not to say that it's bad or anything, but just that I'm not interested in any more Dalek or Davros stories in the canonical of the 80s Doctors. But that's more like a really personal thing. I don't blame anybody if they don't feel like that. But I had to get this one because it stars Flip. And Flip is a companion that gets featured on the Last Adventure box set. So I needed this to kind of get me into that story. So yeah, before we get into the story, we got the official Big Finish CD cover right there, and that's nice, isn't it? Sorry, there's like a glare there. And like always with these official Big Finish CD covers, I make my own DVD cover. Now, I think I've done the front of it myself, but clearly from the back I've taken up from somewhere from DeviantArt. So that's the front, and I have the Dalek poking out. This would be Davros's Daleks that appeared in what's the story? Revelations of the Daleks from the Sixth Doctor era, and would later go on in Remembrance of the Daleks with the Seventh Doctor, although they get a slightly different design in that one. So you got the Flip there and Colin Baker. There's the spine if anyone's interested. Very nice. And we got the back, which just by looking at it you can see it's not one of mine. So I must have gotten that from DeviantArt somewhere. There you go. So the story starts out with Flip and her boyfriend Jared witnessing a crash, a spaceship craft in the year 2012. Yeah, it's one of those stories where at least the first half, like the first, I believe it's like the first episode, is set in modern day. And when I say modern day, I mean in terms of when the audio drama was released, rather than the era of the 80s Doctor, sorry. And of course, Flip was already met the Doctor at this point, and she finds the Doctor on this crashed ship, and she takes him to his flat, to her flat, Jared's flat. And basically they state that they've got to keep things quiet and don't let anybody know that he's there. Colin Baker does a fan-bloody-tastic job in this. He plays the Doctor extremely different. He's a bit more confused. He seems to be suffering from some sort of amnesia. For example, he doesn't seem to recognise Flip, and when Flip explains who she is and stuff like that, he just calls her my girl. Come on, my girl, and stuff. And the Sixth Doctor is a lot more grouchier than even his television appearance. And it's a lot less bombastic, even though he's a bit more grouchy. And so we got a very unique portrayal of the Doctor in this story, and I really like Colin Baker's version on this. It's not his most passionate. I mean, the Sixth Doctor, when you think of the Sixth Doctor, you think passionate, the guy who would just scream into your face about what is right and what is wrong. You never get a scene like that in here with the Sixth Doctor. But we get a very unique look into the Sixth Doctor. He explains that he's basically on the run from the Daleks, and they attract him down to Earth, and they're going to basically exterminate everybody. Jared, Flip's boyfriend, originally is hesitant on working again with the Doctor. I don't know if he appeared in The Crime of Thomas Brewster. I believe he did, but the way the story describes him is as if they haven't met, because he doesn't seem to trust the Doctor enough that he wants to take it to the authorities. And when the authorities, who are acting very strange, hear that Jared has seen the Doctor, they explain they want to keep him there for a little bit longer because they need a little bit more of his help. And we get some scenes of Flip and the Sixth Doctor. Now, Flip here is played by Lisa Greenwood. Now, Lisa Greenwood is a fantastic actress. She's been in a few soap dramas, and I've seen her in little BBC miniseries and stuff. And here she does a pretty decent job. I found the character herself to be a little bit, I don't want to say irritating. I like her. She has this, I wouldn't say unique, but she has her own way of speaking and talking, and she has all of these references, pop culture references. A great one is later on in the story, which I'll explain when I get there. So she's much in tune with 2012. But I think sometimes it does feel like Jonathan Morris was thinking, right, let me see if I can add any more, again, I don't like using the word, there's got to be a better word out there somewhere. There's got to be some chavvy dialogue I can put in there. So Lisa Greenwood gets a lot of dialogue, and what I really like is that for the first 2 episodes, the Doctor and Flip never really leave each other's sights, only for very small moments. And so, unlike The Condemned with the 6th Doctor and Charlie, here you really feel like you get to learn Flip, and you get to see her as a companion. There's a very great moment when the Daleks have tracked her to her work, and that they've basically killed all of the customers, all the shop owners, and they state that they know that the Doctor can hear them. So what they're going to do is one by one execute everybody who works there, and the Doctor seems to be a bit like, right, I know they're going to die. Either way, the Daleks are going to kill them. There's no hope of rescue for them. So let's just keep hiding secret, and we'll try and get onto the Dalek ship to try and stop them. But Flip is like, I can't just stand here and do nothing. I've got to at least try and help, even if it costs me my life. Which just shows that Flip is a great companion, and it's a very good starting point. Although, like I said, sometimes it does feel like she's given a little bit more dialogue than is necessary, just so that the writers can give out the impression. In a way, it's like they're trying too hard, if that makes any sense. But I guess trying too hard is better than not trying at all, if that makes any sense. And yeah, she actually gives herself up, and she's like, come on, Daleks, you can shoot me. And so the Doctor gets taken. I just completely forgot about Jared. My apologies. Jared later finds the Doctor and Flip in their flat. And when Jared sees the Doctor, he's like, you must be exterminated. You are an enemy of the Daleks. Exterminate, exterminate, exterminate! But they knock him out, and the Doctor explains that the Daleks have discovered the technology to swap brains. So Jared's brain is now in a Dalek's body, and the Dalek's brain is now in Jared's body. And so later on in a bit, after some twinkering, Jared gets released from the Daleks' influences, and he basically becomes a secondary surrogate companion in this story. I really like Jared. I really wish that they kept the 3 of them on. I like the dynamic between the 3 of them. Like Flip and Jared they're like close friends, but they're both kind of hesitant in a way of them in a relationship. At one point, Flip even states it does kind of feel like both of them doesn't want to say they want to split up. in case they hurt the other one's feelings, and that's how it kind of feels like. And so the Doctor gets onto the Dalek ship and tries to find its captives, all the people that they've captured, and he gets caught like almost immediately. And when he gets caught, the Daleks send a message to the ones on Earth, in the shop, and the Daleks are just like, right, we've got the Doctor, kill all of the workers. And they do. They just murder everyone except Flip, as the Doctor halts them and states that don't kill her, take her as a prisoner, and then I'll have to do what you say. I will then be under your influence. And I demand a meeting with Davros. In this story, they refer to him a bit like the Emperor, which ties into his appearance in Remembrance of the Daleks. Davros in this story, again played by Terry Malloy, he does a very fantastic job. He plays him a bit more melancholy this time. He's not as shouty or as raging unless he's absolutely necessary. But the majority of his dialogue, he's kind of like speaking to himself as he's scheming and he's figuring out. He also kind of seems like, from his point of view, he's the good guy, as he states at one point, so Doctor, you found yourself a companion, hiding behind another person's life. How reckless, how arrogant, how naive. So it kind of feels like Davros has a little bit of heart in this one. So they get locked up in a cell where the ship gets transported to, I believe they said, June the 18th, 1870 or 1780. I can't remember which one which. I don't think it doesn't say on the back here. And basically, after an escapade where the Doctor, Flip and Jared escape, they find themselves on the muddy trenches of the French, on a French battlefield against the English, where they get captured as Flip gets really confused, as she's like, you're not French, you're speaking perfect, clear English, to which the other person is like, but you just said that in French, you're speaking French. It's like, I can't be speaking French, I'm English. And the Doctor just kind of like rolls his eyes as they get captured. However, their leader wants to talk to Flip, the strange, weird girl, as she gets meet up with Napoleon. Yes, Napoleon is actually in this story. Making his first appearance, I believe, in a performed medium since the Reign of Terror, way back in the first Doctor era. So it's really nice to see that, a little tease that, because the Doctor stated in that story that he was a huge fan of the French Revolution and he was a big fan of Napoleon. So in this story, Napoleon now gets a bigger part in the story, so it's really fitting. And he kind of interrogates Flip, but he's very nice, he's very gentle towards her. And he states that he knows that she's from the future, and he asks her, what does she know about the future? Now this is the pop culture reference that I really like, where she says, Waterloo, Napoleon did surrender. And it's like, who told you that? ABBA, the band, which is so really, like, that shows what you're looking for when you get into a Flip story, that she is just to clarify, her name's not actually Flip. Flip is a nickname. Her name is Philippina Jackson, so Flip Jackson then. Flip for short. And I can't remember what happens, but after being distracted, Flip gets taken away, and she reunites with the Doctor, and Jared then gets separated as Jared is captured by the English army, and he actually meets the Duke of Wellington, where he seems to be a huge fan of the Duke of Wellington. And he kind of explains about the Daleks. Oh yeah, it's also explained that Napoleon is actually working with the Daleks to assure his victory. So that's a really cool little fact. And so the Doctor and Flip find a secret Dalek base where they meet up with Davros. Now, here's a massive spoiler warning. This is the plot twist in part 2. And it's one of those plot points, it's one of those spoilers where I don't think you got to listen to this. If you have any interest in listening to this, don't continue with this video, because this spoiler is like really influences its plot. And so basically what happens is that the Doctor and Davros confront each other, and the Doctor picks up a Dalek gun and he puts it right up to Davros's face, and basically is like, right, I'm going to execute you, without even hesitating, without even thinking about it. And he also states it's like, you can stop the act now, I've captured one of your friends. Davros is like, I have no idea what you're on about, I've never met this girl in my life. And Flip is like, me neither, I don't even know what you're on about. Doctor, why are you acting so strange? And then the Doctor's like, haven't you worked it out yet? I am not the Doctor. I am Davros. And Flip then turns to Davros, and then it's like, if he's Davros, who are you? Yes, explain who you are. And with Davros's voice, the creature inside its mind speaks. I am the Doctor. Leaving the cliffhanger to into part 3. This is one of the big parts of this story, and I think there's two ways of looking at this, as a plot twist and as part of the narrative. As a plot twist, I'm afraid I don't think it works particularly too well. With the huge influences of mind swapping being stated in the story, and the fact that the Doctor is acting very peculiar and doesn't seem to remember, it did kind of feel obvious that that this was happening. But it's still executed very well and makes you really feel like, even if you did guess prior, you're like on the edge of your seat listening in as this plot point unravels. But as a narrative factor, this works really well. And what this does is allow the two different discs, disc 1 having part 1 and part 2, disc 3 having part 3 and 4, to really give a completely different pace. As we start off the first two stories with Flip and Davros in the Doctor's body, where Colin Baker is playing Davros in disguise, and he's playing a very different and unique portrayal. Parts 3 and 4, however, now has Flip with Terry Malloy playing the Doctor in Davros's body, and the entire emotions of the story goes from this action-packed sci-fi adventure to a much more personal story, as soon after we get a scene where Flip and Davros, the Doctor in Davros's body, get imprisonment, and we get a lot of character-beating character moments, but it feels very natural to the story. To start off with, the Doctor pretends to be Davros and allows one of the Daleks to take Davros in the Doctor's body into the prison. But Davros is like, scan my brain and you would see that I am the real Davros. And after the Daleks scan his brain and then listen in to Davros's conversation with Flip, revealing that the Doctor is in fact in Davros's body. These Daleks are worshippers of Davros, basically like, Emperor, we must be punished. And this really shows the ruthlessness of Davros, as he commands the Dalek, his own child in a way, the one who escorted him to the cell, to self-destruct, killing itself. He also commands the Supreme Dalek, a Dalek of high authority in the Dalek society, not to be confused with the Emperor of the Dalek. And Davros asks him to torture himself, something to do like hire the electromagnetic pulse onto your brain for 5 seconds, and he's like, the Dalek then agrees, and then he just screams out in pain, and then when it stops, Davros goes, that was only 4 seconds, do it again. And then it does it again, screaming in torture. That just shows how messed up Davros is. That he's just so ruthless. He just does not care. And he basically is like, that will teach you to make the same mistake twice. And so the Daleks then captured the Doctor in Davros's body and Flip, and they take him to a prison cell. And we get probably my favourite scene as the real Doctor's mental self actually gets reunited with Flip, and they talk about just life in general. The Doctor asks about what she's been up to in the past year since they last met, and that how's Jared. This is where we get the scene in which he explains that they're great friends, but she doesn't know like what's happening afterwards. She also asks the Doctor what happened to Evelyn, to which the Doctor states that she went away with a nice man named Roslin, I believe. I could be wrong. This is a plot element that we never actually see in the audio drama, as sadly the actress who played Evelyn Smythe passed away before she could record a farewell story. So that's a crying shame. So we get a lot of scene, and then she basically explains, like, she basically asks about Davros, like, who is he, what's he about, and the Doctor's like, he was crippled like this, and that he went mad, he created the Daleks with only hatred to be fueled, and Flip's like, yeah, but hold on, I know many people with disabilities who are stuck in like a wheelchair and stuff, and they're not mad, they're not insane. And we get probably one of the best performances by Terry Malloy, as he basically is like, you kind of really actually sympathise with Davros in a way. The Doctor explains that you never understand someone unless you put yourself in their shoes, and it's not just being crippled. He is in constant torment, and the Doctor was like, if he knew that Davros's life was like this, he would have never, ever have gone through this mind transfer situation. It turns out that the Doctor it was actually the Doctor's plan to mind swap him. And the Doctor even states that Davros has a stronger will than him, and that if the Doctor was trapped in this body forever, and he had the option to turn off his life support system, he would press it without hesitation, just showing just like, that's really like messed up. Now what I really like about this story, and one of the reasons why I just absolutely love this twist, is Colin Baker playing Davros. Now, for those of you who don't know, Colin Baker, prior to playing the Doctor, was normally typecast as villains, mainly in soap dramas like The Brothers from the 1980s and the 1970s. So he's well versed in playing villains. Also, when he appeared as the Sixth Doctor, one of his character traits is that he would be a much more brash, much more... he'd be like the closest Doctor at that point, and I think still is, to be a villain. If any Doctor was going to give in to the dark side, it would be Colin Baker's sixth incarnation. And this story allows Colin to go full on evil. And it's like you can't, when he talks with Davros and with his personality, you don't hear the Sixth Doctor, you hear Davros. And this story, I think, proves that Colin Baker is the best actor to play the Doctor in an objective point of view. Maybe not the best Doctor, and that's more like a personal taste. But I think purely on skill of acting, I think Colin Baker is without a doubt the best actor to play the Doctor. And so, yeah, and we get a few scenes in which they escape as Jared tinkers around into the Dalek ship as he tries to escape the English, and he actually captures a Dalek gun and comes back, giving them a power against the French. And we also get a great scene in which Flip and the Doctor, they go into a room in which all the Daleks' brains were being transplanted into human bodies. This is where those Daleks, now with the human brains, are in containments. And they actually talk to one of them, and they ask, it's like, why am I constantly in pain, constantly like angry? Please, can I just return me back to my body? I'm so lost and confused. And if not, please just kill me, just murder me. Whilst then all the Daleks just start screaming, kill me, end my life. This suffering is just too tormented. And the Doctor promises them that he can't promise them, but he states that he's going to try his best to get them back into their own bodies. So the Doctor tries to transfer his brain back into his own body as they capture Davros by means of putting a Dalek top onto the Doctor as he's got the Dalek casing at the bottom, and go as prisoner and escort. And whilst the Daleks are distracted trying to capture the Doctor, Flip then holds Davros at gunpoint and puts them into a mind transplant and switches their bodies. We get a really great scene in which the Doctor and Davros both claim that they're Davros, and the Doctor and the Daleks are confused on who's who. Something has been blocking their systems to scan their brains, and Flip asks them a question because she knows that, like, Davros knows the answer to one of the questions, something to do with her grandmother, and so they both ask answers, and then Flip is like, I'm sorry, but the one in the Doctor's body is Davros. But the Dalek state that, like, she could be lying, she can't be trusted, she's working with the Doctor, so it must be the person in Davros's body that's the Doctor, so take them away. And when they go into the prison, it's revealed that this is actually Davros, and that the Doctor has taken over he asks then the Daleks to bring Napoleon onto their ship. And then we finally get a scene with the Doctor and Napoleon. And the Doctor explains what's been going on. The Doctor states that, like, if you win this victory, they're just going to betray you, and I'll prove it to you. And he kind of like beats him up and puts him in the cupboard. And he talks then to the Dalek, the Supreme Dalek, who states that they made a deal that after the war is won and the French won, they're going to transplant a Dalek's body, brain, into Napoleon's body. And after the Dalek leaves then, Napoleon is like, right, they're going to betray me. There is no way I'm going to win this war. I'll have to surrender. And so the Dalek's plan has failed. The Doctor escapes as he sets one of the secret Dalek bases to explode. He does try and save all of the humans the men have been put into Daleks. However, the Daleks and Davros, those misguided little blobs of monsters, actually set this room to self-destruct, killing everybody who was trapped in a Dalek body, showing just how ruthless they are. It's come to my attention that I really like Daleks in audio drama. They seem to be a lot more ruthless than they are in the TV appearances. And so the Doctor sets up one of the Daleks' time machines to get Flip and Jared home back into 2012. And they're about to leave off. And we get a scene which really emphasises the similarities between Flip and Rose. And I don't think it's a bit on the nose. I think it's a bit too much like, see, right, she's like Rose, and you people like Rose, so means you might like this character. But I think it's a bit too similar, a bit too on the nose, in which Flip walks out and she asks Jared, do you remember when I asked I wanted a bit more in life? Yes. I'm sorry. She kisses him and then runs back into the door before it closes. And the Doctor is like, what are you doing here? I hope you're not thinking of, I guess you suspect me to take you back home. And she's like, yeah, but there's no rush, honestly. I don't mind travelling with you. And he's like, good, because the TARDIS is not always reliable. Ending our story. And that's Curse of Davros. Overall, it is a really good story. It sets up Flip very well. We get to learn her personality, her way of life, the way she speaks, the way she talks. We also see her in very companion testing situations, and she proves herself. So it's a very good starting on point. Colin Baker gives out one of his greatest and a very unique performances, as he is both the Dalek, Davros, and he is also, for the majority of the story, he is Davros, and that gives him a very unique portrayal in this story. I also really like Jared, and I really like this plot of going back to the French-English War and meeting Napoleon. Although, a little bit of a nitpick, why this particular war? I mean, comparing the Daleks to anybody else, which would make much more sense, would be the Nazi Party and Hitler. But maybe that was a bit too much on the nose, and that maybe there were so many time travellers who's gone to World War II that there was a lot less interference during the events of this story. That's my own guess. And so that's The Curse of Davros. Really enjoyed that one. So join me next time, where we will be going on to a last adventure story as the Doctor gets reunited with some old friends, and he will be reunited with a deadly enemy. So see you next time for Stage Fright. And I'll see you next time on the Doctor Who Marathon. Ta-da.